So some of you will know, obviously some of you won't. It's interesting actually, because obviously I have the sporting background, Lawrence does as well, and what I'd hope to sort of do is not be the sporty person, which would be quite useful, I think, for tonight's proceedings, because it was 23 years ago. It's a long, long, long time ago. And I know that you guys have. If you think back 23 years ago, you've probably moved on in your lives. So let's assume I have as well, which would be great. So I have moved on, and I am a leadership development professional. That's what I do. Lane 4 works in the leadership development space, and we work in quite a lot of FTSE 100 businesses. We're local, we're quite international. We've got 3 offices around the world, about 100 and so employees and associates. So we've grown to quite a size. This is what I do. It is completely my world. And so, I occasionally swim with the kids and stuff like that. But so what I'm going to try and do here is just stimulate thinking. What I was talking to Patrick about was there's something personal about having been an I in a team, an individual, to becoming a leader of a business. And so there's a personal little reflection there about how it's changed for me. And it has changed a lot, actually, from being an individual to a team player and also a leader of a team. But also current trends and themes. What are we noticing? Because we're out there consulting with quite a lot of large organisations in this world, in this economy. So we had a bit of a chat about, like, can I throw some things in, some of the stuff we're noticing? And so I thought I'd do that towards the end as well. So 2 bits really. There are a couple of sort of swimming pictures. I'm not going to do that, but it's a nice segue in a way. So how I got into leadership development. My first job outside competing was head of talent development for British Swimming. So I didn't do a coaching role. I went into the administration to run talent development. So we were losing a lot of kids, and I wanted to get amongst that and work that out. So my entry into leadership was talent development and creating a national system for our junior kids. As I started to lead projects and lead people, I recognised that I had to change, because I was quite self-centred and sort of everything revolved around me and my goals. And I worked within a team, but it was about. It felt, this is 20 odd years ago, it felt like I was using the team for my own benefit, which is not the way I'm not necessarily proud of it, but it worked, and I got an Olympic gold medal, so it was helpful. But it's very, very, very different now. It's very different. And when I thought about who do I want to model, I actually thought, I want to model the guy on the right, not the guy on the left. By the way, I'm on the left, with a rubber hat on. So Terry was my coach at Leeds, and I thought, he was a guy that enabled me to get my talent out. And a few of the people, we talked here about creating this environment for people to succeed. He did it, so he created something phenomenal. And I was with him from the age of about 13, 14, and my best result was like county second. So all the way through to win the Olympics. So statements about leadership. What I identified from this guy, the things I wanted to model, things I wanted to do as I grew my own business, was to believe in people. So this guy believed in me. So when you recruit people, when you choose to manage or lead, I think you've got a duty of care. And I think there's something about believing in what you hired or believing in what you've got to some degree. If you don't, it's Lawrence's point. If you don't, it's going to show. Those energy sappers. If you see that and if you feel it, well, you've got to deal with it, front up with it, and if you can't believe in them, then you've got to sort it out. But I think a lot of it's about you and the way you approach somebody. You've got a responsibility as a leader to believe in people that you have in your team. If you don't, you've got to sort it out. And I think too many people are scared of sorting stuff out. This guy worked with belief then. The other thing is about life does not go smoothly, and people have crises, and I was no different. And so working with belief, understanding how to build and rebuild confidence in something is very important. Challenge support, working with goals, we've heard the same thing. It's like you've got to know what your bit is in it. So I work very hard on that with my team, but also support people. Reviewing performance, it's easy in sport. We don't often do it well in business. I think a great leader reviews success as well as failures, and often we get micro interested in the failure, and we don't often look at why we're great. And in sport we're very good at that. You understand how do you unpick it. Sustainability is about looking at all the great things you do and have done, rather than just keep on moving on and on and on. So I think reviewing, and it's almost like climbing the mountain and stopping to look at the view. You've got to do it. Create an environment. We've all said it, all 3 of us. I've noted it down, and help me take responsibility. Alan said that as well. So the other thing was he couldn't, and some of you have heard this before, he couldn't swim, so my swimming coach couldn't actually do what I was doing. He could stay afloat, but he was embarrassing at best. Which is a great model for a leader, right? So I came on with this model of this guy who wasn't actually particularly talented at what I was trying to do, but was able to enable me. So I've got this particular view now around delegating and passing the power down that Anne has, which is don't try and swim the race for the people I employ. So I've got a board of 6, and we've got then over 100, 120 people. My job for my 6 guys and women is to help create an environment where they can be brilliant. We're an academic background organisation. We started with psychologists from Loughborough University, and so I've got 2 professors work for me, and I actually dropped out of university in the end. I managed to get a couple of degrees, one from from here actually, so I actually do have my degrees, but I didn't actually study for them. But the point I'm trying to make is when I started to think about this, how do I enable talented people who come and work for you with real strength, try and clear out of the way, try and give them something that's actually quite behavioural and quite in this sort of mould really. I actually went down. I don't know if you've heard of Robert Greenleaf, the servant leader. If you ever, if you want to sort of look at where I may have started and how the complete shift from being self-centred to other-centred came from, it was like early work reading Robert Greenleaf stuff on servant leader. I am there to serve the people that work for me. I still have a massive element of my core is there to serve the organisation, and that's what I do. So I lead in the company, but I also consult with clients, so I get a huge amount of interest and excitement from working with clients. This statement, again, building on both of us, all 3 of us, this was a statement of the university in the States where I trained for a while, so I did actually go. And this was a philosophy that just stood out. It just hit me square between the eyes. And I've tried to do this in my own organisation and also working with other organisations. Create an environment where champions are inevitable. So create an environment around people, conditions for them to be brilliant, rather than doing stuff to them. And I was in Britain. Sport was very parental, very, that transaction analysis, parent-child stuff. I mean, I was a kid, but it wasn't until I started to understand what an adult-adult relationship actually truly was like. It was based on a leadership ethic that wanted to create an environment around people. People hide behind hierarchy so much and create this parental sort of oversight and think that they need to be something more than other people. But frankly, if you're not on the same adult playing field with other people, you're not going to get anywhere with anybody. So for me, it was about creating this environment around people. We've analysed this. I mean, we've got a research function at Lane 4. I think would be quite the envy of some universities, given that a couple of our guys came from university. We set up a research function on day 1, and we've been researching quite a lot. We've got a budget of about $500,000 actually in our research bit. I think we fund about 15 to 20 masters and PhD students around the country looking at work, first-line work that we can use in the industry. We've looked into creating an environment. What does it really mean in organisations? Not a team-specific small team squad environment, but organisation environment. I'm just going to throw one model at you, and I know it's late-ish, but I run my business on this. I run meetings on this. I behave to this. It's one of the most important things I've noticed, and frankly, in the last 2-3 years, it's helped me lead through a recession quite strongly. Let's go for that one first. Management, leadership. I don't know. Current, future. We all have attentions as leaders on the 2 things, and this is it builds into, if you like, a balanced scorecard of sorts. A sort of nod to Quinn's work and a big nod to a guy called Chris Rogers' work as well. Right now, what am I doing right now? I'm probably in a relationship with Bucks University. You guys, it's probably future orientation. Before I came in the room, I looked at my BlackBerry and I've got some emails about the board meeting tomorrow, so that's my current. So my mind is split between 2 things, as yours probably is. When you look at your own development, it's future oriented. When you look at the future of your organisation, where your organisation is going, it's future oriented, but you've got to manage here and now, manage the challenges that you've got. You've also got this external stakeholder demands, differentiation if you're in a private sector against the competition. The stakeholders in the public sector are massive also. And then internal demands of the organisation. So, there's a tension between where you're pulled. It was LBS actually, Sheffield Institute of Work Psychology, did a lot of work on these 4 levers that you pull in an organisation, where organisations really sustain performance and leaders get it right. They're able to pull the levers around achievement, here and now, measured to the external targets, whatever you like to call it, KPIs. In my world now, utilisation, profitability. Processes, disciplines, getting the thing done right first time. If you're in retail, it's getting stuff on the shelf so the customer can buy it. It's all the processes at end-to-end in patient care. A lot of leaders are driven into this space, and during the recession, a lot of people focused attention on this, and their language is about this as well. So we were noticing that people were not as motivated because they were being nailed into this space. And we had weekly board meetings around the figures in 2009, and it was all around this stuff. Above the line, future external, what is new, what can be new? And this is really interesting because we noticed companies that made it through the recession had leaders who were still having those conversations. They were still thinking about what is the economy doing to our sector, what is our product, what are we offering, is it fit for purpose, are people at the price that people want to pay for? So we were having weekly on this stuff, monthly on that, still having the conversations about what could be innovative in our world, and spending time and investing in time, staying ahead of the competition, innovating, business development. Future externally is well-being, having the right people, right job, right roles, responsibilities, doing what you need them to do for the organisation, and also looking after yourself. So my world, old world, I knew what time I had to swim the race. I had race pacing, nutrition, psychology, and new ways of doing stuff. If I run a team meeting at Lane 4 or I run a town hall meeting, my story to the organisation is always based on stories in this box. The number of leaders I see stand up in front of the organisation and tell that story only, and wonder why people are not motivated. It's like my coach coming on the poolside every morning saying, swim 62 seconds. Yeah, okay. Swim 62 seconds. Yeah, I know I've got some 62 seconds. Let's talk about the other stuff as well. You know, so the conversation, the dialogue that happens around this is critical. The goals you set. Do you have goals in your organisation in these areas? Did you jettison them during the recession? Do you still have them? You should have them. It's tough. I'm not saying it's easy. And some of Lawrence's stuff around resilience is, you know, how you manage attention being pulled in all directions. And they are learnable skills. Okay, moving on to sort of current trend stuff. What I'm noticing. We're doing a lot of work at the moment with organisations around leadership communication and courageous leadership communication. Something about how do you step into a place to have conversations with people that might not be comfortable. One organisation did a survey of its 5,000 employees. 20% of them didn't have a team meeting. 1,000 out of 5,000 did not attend any team meeting at all. The leader, the manager, the supervisor was not able for some reason. And some of the reasons stated were fear that the 21-year-old supervisor being promoted in a peer group. You know, it's my old mates. I don't know how can I have this conversation. I might ask some awkward questions. Something's about the information they get from above, which is in some 50-page pack, which they've got to try and work out how to make sense of it. Anyway, so something about being courageous in that space. I'm going to talk a bit of that in a second. Managing ambiguity. I mean, this is, you know all this stuff, right? It's about change, it's about transition, being resilient and being flexible. I'm going to go into the courageous communication first. What is it? It's about ownership. You've got to step out there, you've got to be courageous to say it is about what I think about this organisation, what I think about the world, what's affecting me personally. Tough feedback. Lawrence used language brutally honest. I come from a world where that happens a lot. You know, there is some skill in delivering it. You listen to the guys that deliver the hard stuff well. You try and filter out their style of delivering it when they deliver it badly. But on the other hand, you need to hear it. And people shy away from that at their peril. And I think people got a bit tough in the recession and started to try it. Sharing bold decisions. You know, involving people if the organisation is going through something different, rather than sort of thinking you're the only one that can hold it. Work against preference, interesting. I think there's a lot about making sense with people. So if you're an introvert on a Myers-Briggs type scale, for instance, or if you're somebody who doesn't like being out there, well, guess what? Your people need you to be out there, so it's tough. You're frankly paid to be a leader. You're paid to be a little bit more extrovert than your preference might say. So if you don't like going for a sandwich with people, you've got to get amongst it. And I'm a natural introvert. I mean, my preference is not, but I understand that I need to engage with the grapevine. I can't change what Chris Rogers calls informal coalitions. They will happen. I have to be in the informal coalitions. I have to be plugged into it some way and be as authentic as possible with it. Learn the habit, the behaviour. And overcoming fear of reaction. You know, people, you know, it's not personal. You will be reacted to if you're in a leadership position, but you've got to overcome the fear of that. Stephen Elop, Chief Executive of Nokia, talking about courageous communication. He sent an internal memo out. I don't know if you know Nokia had a tough time recently. He sent an internal memo to his employees that was leaked to the media. And this was his courageous communication. We poured gasoline on our own burning platform. I believe we have lacked accountability and leadership to align and direct the company through these disruptive times. With a series of misses, we haven't been delivering innovation fast enough, we're not collaborating internally, Nokia, our platform is burning. That was leaked to the media. Courageous, open, everything you want from your leader to have a conversation to stir it up. So this was a share price. Went down from about 11.80, this was after that was leaked. Went down to 11.80 to about $9. So it took, I can't remember how many billion it took off the share price. So employees might be happy about him being honest. But the situation wasn't. A lot of investor institutions were really pissed off about it. Now, history will determine whether he, as in the typical change curve, I mean, sorry, it's black, but actually, you know what? He might have taken it there, and you know it might come back. They've just had that lawsuit against Apple, so they've now, I don't know if you know, they've now clawed back a couple of billion from Apple because they're using some of their technology. So you know what? It might be a very courageous thing to have done. So I'm really interested in the difference between authenticity and courage, actually. I think it's a paradox. There's a paradox in this. So I've been working in this world for 16 years now, and Rob Goffey, I've worked with Rob actually from London Business School. Why Should Everybody Be Led by You? Awesome book. Talks about authenticity. You've got to be authentic. Well, Elop has been authentic, but on the other side, there's bravery and courage is about hiding it, isn't it? Should you tell everybody just how scared you might be about the recession? You know, the organisation, yes. So there's a real paradox here, I think, about how authentic are you when you know something's happened to your industry or sector, your organisation. And I think this question, I'm not going to ask you this question because I think it'll take about an hour. I've done it with the group before, but I would reflect on that. Just how open, how authentic are you? Because we're all teaching it, we're all telling you about authentic leadership. But when do you sort of cover it a bit or not? So just when you're driving away, think about that one. It's grey. I don't think it's an answer necessarily. And finally, just to stimulate you into the next piece, a lot of words. I am sorry for this, but this is an actual, from a year ago, a briefing with one of the FTSE 100s to us for their leadership agenda. This is their agenda right now in the year 2011, 2010. This is what they're looking for. You look at the language in this. This is the agenda right now of a global player. Self-confidence, it's chaotic, no answers. Build confidence in others, encourage them to perform while change is happening. Realistic optimism, can-do prevails, but challenge is not underestimated. You know, tell it as it is. You know, it's a real challenge, this one. Adaptive leadership, resilience in yourself and others, being comfortable with improvisation. Have you ever had anybody work on improvisation with you? We did some stuff about 6 months ago, get an improv guy in. It's an awesome piece of leadership development, getting somebody that works in that space. Where's your inner strength and stamina? Mental toughness. I mean, God, we used to talk about that in the 80s when I was swimming. You know, I was relatively well known for having mental toughness. But what is it? You know, what is that all about? And then emotional element of human change. That is the agenda. It is not about learning strategy, financial management. Of course, the sort of necessary pieces are in there. This is the sort of leader they are looking for to run these global organisations right now. This is it. Do you know William Bridges' work? Some of the change and transition. Basically, change is what companies do, transition is what people do. If you as a leader do not engage with the transition of human beings and you only run change projects, you will fail in your change. And this image is to basically talk about the psychology of what happens when you go through transition. I'm working on a big merger at the moment, 2 mobile telecom companies. People have got to transition. You can't just tell people to join another company. You can change it. You can have the best project in the world. McKinsey could have done you the best project you will ever see. But if you don't transition psychology and people, and it will feel like letting go of a bar, swinging through the air and catching something else. You will know this yourself. If you've ever been involved in a big change, there's some form of getting your hands either prized off the bar or feeling comfortable to relax to let go of the bar, fly through the air. When you're flying through the air, what are you thinking? You're thinking, where's the safety net? You're thinking, is he going to catch me? How do you trust the new? And Bridges talks a lot about endings, neutral zone, new beginnings, letting go of something. Neutral zone being quite innovative actually, but you've got to get hold of the new thing. And so we do a lot of work at the moment, and I think leaders you need to think about transitioning people, not just changing organisations. So my question, it's on the second piece of what I just talked about, is where your organisation supports the people transition. I'm sure you've all got certain change things going on, projects, initiatives, things you're doing that are causing your organisation or teams to change around you. Well, how do you support transition, not change? And where's the leader's role in it? Go for it, 5 minutes. Yeah.